All right, folks. Well, you know you're in for a treat when you hear that tune, because it's time for another week of the RecPoker Podcast. This is our weekly chats interview edition, but we also have a weekly forums edition. It's all about strategy. I'm Jim Reid, your host for both. I go by Blusterini in the home game and at RecPoker Jim on socials. And I have the best freaking job in the world, talking poker with my friends every Monday night at 7:30 Eastern, live on YouTube. You can join us for free and win a prize just for showing up. Now, we have a trio of fantastic guests tonight. We're going to be speaking to Mikha Richards, Christina Gollins, and Brent Lee in just a moment. First, I'm proud to share we're brought to you by Running Aces. They are the official sponsor of the RecPoker Podcast. You can find out more about them at runaces.com, or you can just come join us. It's RecPoker Weekend at Running Aces this coming weekend, all day on Friday, August 1st and Saturday, August 2nd. We'll have tournaments, cash games, meetup, social events. We'll be having meals and drinks together. We'll be raising money for food banks. We'll be hanging out and having a great time. So like I say, find out more at runaces.com or go to rec.poker/events and find out all about RecPoker Weekend at Running Aces. Now, most of what we do here is free. We're a largely volunteer-based organization, so we really depend on support from our sponsors and from our premium members who take part in our training material and study opportunities for only $22 a month. You can sign up for a free account at rec.poker today. All it takes is an email address and a smile. And you know we love supporting food banks around here. So if you want to check out the perks of our premium membership and you don't have $22, that's just fine. Make a donation of any amount to your local food bank, even $1. Send us the receipt and we'll happily send you your first month of premium membership for free as a way of saying thanks for helping out your fellow humans. Now, speaking of fellow humans, you get used to hearing my voice because they let me host the show on Mondays, but I am just one man. It takes a whole crew to make the magic happen around here. We call our leadership panel the RECing Crew. If you want to learn more about me or the rest of the RECing Crew, go to rec.poker/crew or listen up. You're going to meet a few of them here on the show tonight. It's not just me. We've got John Somsky, Joe Coolis, and invisible producer Rob Gardner. But we've also got Christina, Mikha, and Brent. So let's just dive right into the show here. Oh, and a little furry friend as well. Okay, so we got to start there. Christina, what's the name of your dog?
This is actually my mom's dog that I inherited over the weekend.
Oh, really?
Her name is Coco.
Coco, all right. She seems very affectionate. You already have two dogs? So this is an addition? Okay.
This is an abomination.
And how's the chemistry at home now with the oh no, they've got some work to do?
Yeah.
No?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
It's a corgi, right?
This
corgi
is
mix?
a Pomeranian mixed with a dog.
Okay. Looks like a corgi. All right, never mind.
It's an Pomeranian. I see what's going on there. That was nicely done. Very nicely done. You set me up there. All right. That's enough about dogs, though. We actually often do talk about dogs here on the RecPoker Podcast because, in my opinion, they're vastly superior to cats. But that's just me. We're not going to get into it. So, Christina, Mikha, and Brent, we don't often have like a panel of guests. So we're going to ask some questions of each of you and some questions individually of you. Let's start with an easy one, though. In the order that I see you, we'll go Christina, Mikha, Brent. Christina, can you define your own role in the poker world today?
I'm a master punter.
Such a liar.
Sometimes player, sometimes min cash expert, and that's about it.
All right. Mikha, what about you?
I'm just here for a fun time. My bankroll might not allow me to be here for a long time, but we'll see what happens there. But yeah, so on this exec team with Partnered Poker, I'm also a board member with Pocket Queens and a part of the Chase the Dream team, which very closely is related to RecPoker Podcast, if not nestled next to each other.
Yeah, exactly. We're going to get into a bunch of that today as well. That's fantastic. Brent, what about yourself? How would you define your own role in the poker world today?
I think I'm pretty much the definition of a recreational poker player, very fitting for the podcast that we're on today. But also I'm an entrepreneur and I'm dipping my toe in several different ventures, trying to transition from one career into the next, and doing something you love is obviously doesn't feel like a job. So I'm on the executive team of Partnered Poker. We're going to be talking about that here in a bit, and a couple other little things that I'm working on that kind of tongue and groove nicely.
Nice. All right. Fantastic. Well, I'll remind our YouTube audience, if you've got questions for Mikha, Brent, or Christina, just type them into the YouTube chat. And of course, stick around. We're going to be doing a raffle at the end of the show to benefit a local food bank, and you will be able to win some real prizes just by sticking around and engaging in the chat a little bit. So now we're kind of scratching the surface a little bit here. Let's go a little deeper into your poker story and what brought you to Partnered Poker. So I'll just set it up. So Partnered Poker is this mentorship program that you guys have put together. It's kind of cohort based. We're going to get into a bunch of the details about it, but let's start with you, Mikha. Last year, Rob Gardner and I and several other wonderful people were part of a sort of a mentorship program at Pocket Queens that you were running. How has that evolved to this, and sort of what is the problem that you feel like it's solving in the poker world based on your own journey?
I gotta say, it's kind of serendipity that we're talking here, because I had come last year, introduced the mentorship program. Jim and Rob, like you said, you were mentors, but the program had ended. I was kind of in the works of restarting it again, I think about 6 months ago. And Jim, you tagged me in a post that Christina had put out there about starting a all gender wide poker mentorship program. And he said, "Hey, Christina, Mikha might be able to help you. She's done something like this. Hit her up." So we connected, and we just right off the bat kind of had the same vision for what we wanted in the poker space regarding mentorship. And kind of just from there on, we just kind of ran with it. We set really aggressive timelines to get it up and going. That was always my goal, was to offer it in an all-inclusive environment. But I just didn't have the full network that Christina had, or really like the stamina to do it all by myself. So that all being said, thank you, Jim, for making that connect, because without you, it would have never happened. So in my opinion, this mentorship program is available because poker is really fun, right? But it also comes with the laced downsides of poker. Sometimes we have downswings that put us in really bad mental states. We also have times that we want support and we want to grow our game and get help with hands. And this is supposed to facilitate that in a way for people who don't have that connection, who don't feel confident to go up to somebody they admire like Christina and ask, "Hey, can I learn something from you?" in a fully pro bono space.
I like that. And honestly, I had forgotten. I remember tagging you in that post and being like, "Oh, this sounds like such a perfect thing." So I'm so glad that that little nudge has turned into such a wonderful partnership. Christina, let's hear from you next. Sort of what led you to putting this program together, and just kind of fill in some of those details.
It all came from like this light bulb moment that I had one day, where I realized that I always tell people whenever they ask if I coach, I say no, but you can text me hand histories, you can ask me questions, we can go over spots that you're uncomfortable with, whatever you need, anytime. And I realized that there are probably so many other people that are like that, where they don't want to commit to something as serious as coaching, but they're willing to help once in a while, once a week, even once a day, some of the retired folks. And so that's what the light bulb moment was, where I was like, you know what, let's just make a huge mentorship program. At the time in my mind, it was like a small project, but no, it blew up pretty well. And it ended up being super successful with the help of Mikha. And it grew to where it was, I think we had like hundreds of people apply. And then I realized, okay, this is actually going to work. Let's make it all gendered. Let's make it fun. Let's try to incorporate some people that people already look up to aka D-Negs, if you're listening to this, if you be a mentor on our next session.
Get in there, D-Negs.
I know, we want to try to get some big names in there. Our first time around, we already had some pretty big names. I'm going to name drop right now. We had Jeff Platt. That's pretty cool. I mean, we had a lot of people wanting to have him as a mentor. So it was a pretty cool, spontaneous idea that worked out. And I think that everyone who participated really appreciated it. And it was just like a fun program that I think we're going to continue for a very long time.
I really like that distinction between coaching and mentorship. We've talked about that at RecPoker quite a bit, and how some people are looking for like structured, strategic tutelage, but some people are just really looking for someone to bounce ideas off, someone to just kind of like shine the light on the path ahead a little bit. So that's cool. I think that is an important distinction, and I appreciate that you guys are approaching it that way. Brent, what about yourself? How did you get involved in this, and tell us sort of like your own take on the void that this program is filling in the poker world?
Yeah, so you look at a guy like myself, I'm a little bit older, have free time and disposable income, was looking something to do, terrible at golf, looked into the mind sports. I do play chess and do some other things and started getting player cards. And I've only been playing cards for a couple years now. It was just by luck I happened to trip across a casino that was doing a WSOP circuit event and went and cashed my very first tournament. And of course, got the bug, and then just started studying and going like crazy, like you hear. I had really, really good success within my first couple years. Got a runner with a bracelet over the summer, my first summer out in Vegas. And back home, everyone said, "Well, gosh, you're having this success. Can you teach me? Can you teach me?" And I was like, "Man, I'm new to this too." But what I found is that in just kind of like Christina was saying, is just sharing the occasional hands and talking through things. Not only was I able to maybe help some people that were brand new to the game or were used to playing, pub poker, bar league type stuff, but I noticed that my game started deepening and I started looking at hands differently. And so it was mutually rewarding. Poker is a zero-sum game. The old adage, even if I'm sitting across from my grandma, I'll try to take her money, right? Like that's why we're there. We if I'm sitting across from Christina, I'll try to take her money. We're great friends, but that's why we're there. We're there to compete and we're there to win. Like any other sport. And sometimes that can feel a little self-serving, a little, egotistical. And what I've found is when I got involved in partner poker, it was incredibly rewarding. I got matched with a fantastic person, Miriam, who I think you might know, Jim. And that just was kind of luck of the draw. And she and I got to where we were speaking multiple times a week. I noticed that my game was improving. Her game was improving leaps and bounds. She attended her first World Series of Poker this past summer. And when she, won her first tournament, this was not at the World Series, but when she won her first tournament, she was just glowing and she was so happy. She was so thankful. She gave me a ton of the credit. I don't know if it's all deserving, but that's just one of those things. Maybe it's, like the Major League Baseball player that coaches the local minor league team or something. There's just something about that giving back that feels huge. But at the same time, on a scale of 1 to 10, I'm a 6. There's 7s, 8s, 9s, 10s out there that I also would like to be mentored by. And that's the reason that I love this concept of partner poker, is that I can help people that are new to the game, certainly. But there's plenty of players that can help me deepen my own game. And so the more that I was involved, and the fact that I do have some free time and the entrepreneurship background, I just started pestering the two beautiful ladies stationed there to my left and said, listen, I want to be more involved. I have time. I have resources. I have connections. Let's see if we can really take this thing where it needs to be.
Nice. And I know Marion is a longtime RecPoker member, and I was very good friends with RECing Crew member Scott Lum. I think he introduced her into the group here, and I've really enjoyed getting to know her a little bit over the podcast, and we've spoken several times. And she does give you a lot of credit. She's here in the show tonight in the YouTube chat for her success. So it was great to see such a fun pairing come together. That's wonderful. I guess we got one question from Mike Day I was going to save till the end, but that's a good question to kind of lead into here. How do you as a group pair up mentors with mentees? Like, yeah, and you said like sometimes there's going to be a mentor who's kind of like more in demand than some of the other ones. What process do you have to make sure that the fit is as good as possible? I'll let you decide who answers that.
Mikha, do you want this one or do you want me?
Well,
Sure.
and I think it's an evolving question. I mean, that's really what it is. That they, the Mikha and Christina did the first round, and they had one, and there were some good sides and bad sides to it, and I think it's going to be evolving. But Mikha, talk about how you guys did it the first go round.
Yeah. Okay, so Christina had this brilliant idea to let the mentors pick who they wanted as their mentees. And so we're just kind of the facilitators here, right? We put out an application. We spent many hours reading every single application. And I think there was like 300 applications out there. And I think we had like 60 mentor signups. So we went through every single person. Christina and I had our separate lists. We wrote down who we thought were like good matches, like time zone, skill set, etc. And then we just shot an email out to every single mentor. We said, here are the 10 people or 3 people we think you might be a good match with. You tell us, who do you want? And from there, that's how they connected. Some people, weren't interested anymore. So we'd have to back up and offer it to the next person. Brent is working on something to make our lives a little easier. So Brent, if you want to share a little bit about that.
Yeah, so I've reached out to a couple friends of mine with coding backgrounds, and they're basically putting together an algorithm which will be able to do more of a college application selection. On a scale of 1 to 10, also take a look at if there's gender preferences. A lot of times, ladies that are new to the game only want to be coached by other ladies. Guys only want to be coached by guys. Some people like the gender swap. Then also looking at where they rank themselves and looking at successes like Hendon mob numbers and things like that. If it's truly a new player, I think that I saw a post today on social media that said you're not a poker player unless you're you think you're better than you actually are. And so I think a lot of times people believe that they understand the game a lot more than they really do. And so using this algorithm to kind of help parse that out some is going to deepen the choose. But I think there's always going to be the human oversight looking at it says, okay, yeah, the program may say put these two together, but for whatever reason, that just doesn't feel right.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, it will likely always be the mentor's decision. It's just maybe a little less time effort on our behalfs of reading every single application. Ideally, we get thousands and thousands of apps that we could actually process, and we get thousands and thousands of mentors, and that would be able to help us facilitate a lot more efficiently.
And if you think about some of the online dating websites, you pick the things that are most important to you and you rank them. And then among those, how important they are to you. And once you calculate all that and you turn it into empirical data, that's it's a pretty good way of taking two individuals that are selecting the choices themselves and then pairing them appropriately.
Yeah, wonderful. And I know you aren't charging your mentees at this point for this program. So much like RecPoker, this is a real labor of love for you guys. And the more it grows, the more you have to lean into some automation, some making things automated, some programming, a less personal touch at some points of it. That's something that we've kind of struggled with here as well, because we're all so well intentioned and hands-on and full of passion and vigor for this mandate that we have of making the poker world a better place. But you just have to there's an opportunity cost to that time, and you just sort of have to work on ways to be more efficient about it. So I applaud your efforts, and I guess I wish you well in that. That's something that there's a tension there, right? Between sort of being able to have one-on-one meetings with everybody and hold their hand completely, but also delivering value to a large enough pool. I guess I would ask you this: what are your success criteria for partnered poker? How do you know if you're succeeding or failing at your goals for the program?
I'm going to let Christina answer that, but I just wanted to touch on one thing you said, Jim, is this is a labor of love, and we are all volunteers here, right? So we express to our community that it's flexible. We might not respond right away via email, but it also, I want to make it a point to say that also expands to the mentors that we're recruiting, right? We don't need you to give all of your time. We just want you to give what you're looking to give. How much time you have available is totally in your court, and it's flexible as long as you communicate that to your mentee. So I just wanted to express that. I'll throw your way, Christina. How are we measuring success?
There's a few ways to measure. I think, like Mikha said, as long as the mentee gets something out of it, literally just a token or two, then I feel like we've done our job. That's something that you wouldn't have been connected to this person if it wasn't for this program. You don't have someone to speak to on a weekly, daily basis, right? If it wasn't for this program, and you got something out of it. So that's great. The other thing too is if you're actually being connected and working with somebody versus just ghosting, that's like a bigger issue, I think, that we had. If we can get, like a 80% closing rate. By closing rate, I just mean they pair up, they actually do the 3-month commitment, and they finish the program. Then to me, that's pretty successful.
Yep, I agree. That sounds great. Joe, did you have something you wanted to jump in there with? I'm guessing based on your body language.
How are you managing the legal complications that go along with the fact that you're going to be responsible who gets paired with who?
The legal wait, what?
Well, if somebody does something to somebody, right? If you form the connection, have you considered consulting with them?
These are such hard questions. I'll connect you with my lawyer later. We'll talk about it. So far,
if you know what
in the clears, so let's not jinx it.
Yeah, I hate, Joe, that you're throwing it out there in the void. That's weird.
So look, I mean, when you're teaching somebody, right, you have responsibility for them, whether you take it on or not. And the organization that makes those connections has legal responsibility if something happens. That's why, I mean, any place you go, you're going to have a big, long list of terms of service and so on that you're going to have to sign. So I'm just curious if you contacted a lawyer and if they've expressed any concerns about how you're setting these things up.
So
we brought in the big guns. His name is Brent. So this is.
I can speak to this a little bit. So currently, we have formed this as an official LLC. Will be moving forward, and it is currently going to be a not-for-profit. There will be waivers for anyone involved to sign that they understand that this is for mentorship. That it is in no way a promise of return or a promise of improvement or guarantee. Also, that we are involved in a card game that can be played for monetary value or not for monetary value, and that, of course, responsible gaming laws that we don't advise anyone to play with money that they can't afford to lose, et cetera, that results may vary. And there's no guarantees based upon any relationship. So there is a waiver that's being drafted that would be signed by all parties, and then ultimately it is a situation where there is a level of personal responsibility, and whether that's stepping into a casino the first time on your own and pulling money out of your pocket, and that just is something that just has to be put in black and white.
Yeah, and I'm not saying that you didn't. I was just curious about it because it's one of the things that you often have to consider.
Yes,
when you're bringing in somebody because you've set it up as a power disparate situation, mentor with mentee, and so then the question is, well, if the mentor tells you to put $10,000 on the table because that's what happens next, and they happen to be at that table, how do you defend your organization from those things? So. It's
Understood.
sorry, I didn't mean to ask a hard question. I was just thinking, and Jim called on me. I didn't step
It's
in.
true. He didn't queue up. I could just tell the wheels were turning. And Joe always asks the most interesting questions, so that's why we love having him here on the show. So speaking of questions, like I said, if you're in the YouTube chat, get your questions in for any of these three wonderful folks. And I want to just remind you, if you want to support what we're doing here, you can send a super comment or a super sticky or a super chat. Those donations are shared with a local food bank. For the month of July, we'll be sharing those donations with Poker Gives, which is a fantastic organization based in Las Vegas. And if you want to help us out more directly, you can go to rec.poker/support and find all sorts of ways there to help us out, either financially or just by liking or subscribing some things or referring some things to your friends. But of course, the best way to help us out is by becoming a premium member at RecPoker. You can get your first month for only $5 by using the code podcast at checkout. And if you're more of an audio person, and if you're listening to this like a lot of us do through our own poker podcast, you can join our Patreon for only $10 a month, which gets you an audio version of almost all of our training videos every month, downloaded right to your phone. So there's lots of ways to help out what we're doing here, to support some local food banks, to invest in yourself as a poker player, and to just get more involved with this fantastic group here. I want to give a shout out to Chris Cowsert, who is our newest RecPoker Premium member. So thank you, Chris, for throwing your hat in the ring this week. And I can't wait to get to know you a little better as we develop this relationship. I'm so glad to have your support.
Jim, while we're on the topic of affiliates, I'm just going to throw it in there because it pairs so nicely. Partnered Poker is affiliated with Fast Roll Poker, which is a hand history tracking and sharing application, and GTO Wizard. So at least in the first season of Partnered Poker, we offered 2-month subscriptions to both programs to, I think, about 50% of the participants. And we hope to continue that in the future. So shout out to those two organizations for just being extremely clutch and helping us out.
Very cool. You got to love that. I mean, I have found that the poker world is more open to that kind of thing and more generous and more supportive than I would expect. As an outsider, it feels like this kind of colder place where the pros are on pillars and it's sort of an us and them scenario. But I have found that to be very much not the case. And I'm glad that you've been able to harness some support from the community. That's wonderful. So I'm kind of curious, have you, and I'll open this up to all three of you or any of you, have you had experiences in your own poker journey that have made you feel like you've personally struggled or you've seen other players suffer due to a lack of mentorship? Brent, you look like you've got something to say.
Yeah, I'll be absolutely be able to come to this. So, as I said, was fairly new. Played poker early and then in college and things like that, but never anything seriously. And then started playing fairly regularly, and then to have a pretty large score based upon some people's terms. And then immediately you're like, oh, okay, I can do this. And then you look at all the resources that are out there, all the different training sites. You start reading about GTO and what it's going to take to compete to the next level, because now you've got a significant bankroll where you can do those type things. Immediately you jump from playing the 2-5 game to all of a sudden you're buying into the 10-25 game. And without having a mentor, if you're just having somebody you discuss hands with, that's the differentiation I think Mikha was talking about earlier, where we mentor that can help you navigate those steps through moving to higher buy-in games or larger buy-in multi-table tournaments. However your path is taking you, that's the differentiating factor, because it's very, very easy to get lost. And next thing you know, you've now got a significant bankroll that is quickly dwindling because you've taken steps you shouldn't have taken, or you're not managing it correctly. So, I did find myself in a little bit of dip. Saw things kind of skyrocketing. Bankroll was growing very, very, very quickly. Then all of a sudden it plateaued. You kind of freak out a little bit and say, oh, what am I doing wrong? I need to study harder. You start, trying to implement strategies that aren't really applicable to the levels you're playing. And the next thing you know, the bankroll starts dropping. I did rely on a personal mentor. I've got a good friend, and Alexander Fitzgerald. I don't know if any of you guys know
Oh
who that
yeah.
is.
Yeah,
So I just
great.
reached out to Alex, and he and I talked a lot, and he kind of helped me through that little bit of downswing, got me back on the right path. And so I consider, Alex is a good coach. He's a great mentor, but he's also a very, very good friend. And the person that he is kind of what helped me through that transition about 9 months ago, when I said, "Oh man, maybe I just got lucky there for a few months, and I'm not as good as I thought I am. Maybe I should just take this money and hang it up." But he talked me through it, and I think mentorship is.
Mm-hmm. Christina and Mikha, do you have any anecdotes or sort of moments in your own journey where you feel like having a mentor would have really helped you out or saved you from something?
Yeah, I can go. I feel like poker is such a random space to kind of land on, especially for females. And it's kind of like you don't really know anybody in this world. Like, let's be honest. Like like when I started playing poker, I did not know who Daniel Negreanu was. I had no idea. I didn't know a single person in this world. And so my experience was saved by my boyfriend, who has been playing poker for 15 lifetimes. Thank God. And so if it wasn't for him, I would have spent so much more money trying to train myself by experience. And that's what I did, was that I moved to Vegas to play with the best. I invested a shit ton, a lot of money.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I got you.
Lots of money for higher mid-stakes buy-ins, just to see what the pros were doing, just to mimic what they were, doing every day. I just wanted to play with the best so I can be with the best, but that's not always the case for everybody. And that's few and far between, right? That we can just blow money like that. And so
Sure.
Having a mentor would have saved me hundreds of thousands of dollars, I'll be honest. And a lot of time and efficiency. And so that was something that I really thought was super important, because of the fact that this is such a weird space to be in. And like no one really knows each other until you're there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I like that. I think that's and I think that's a very common situation that you describe, where there's someone in your life who's into poker, but they're coming at it from a completely different point of view than a new player might. John Somsky, you had a question that kind of takes off from this pretty well, I think.
Yes, I did. So my question is more kind of about the logistics of it. Once you get the mentor and the mentee introduced to each other, what happens then? What type of structure do they have for that mentorship and all of that type of thing? How does it work on a day-to-day basis?
Every individual who fills out an application puts what they're looking for from a frequency perspective, and we try our best to match them up with that among the other factors that are taken into consideration. So right off the rip, the mentor and mentee both know what frequency they both want to meet at. We then connect with them, their emails, making a quick introduction. Hey, this is Jeff Platt. You might have seen him on blah, 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 blah. Jeff Platt, me, Jared. Here's some information about him. So they have emails. And then we also provide a resource card. And on the resource card, it gives tips and tricks on how best to facilitate the mentee mentorship or mentee mentor relationship to provide success. We suggested using Google Meets because it's a free resource up to an hour for individuals to use to kind of break down that barrier. But we found along the way, every individual is different, every pairing. Some individuals are using Facebook Messenger, Discord, texting, etc. Moving forward, because we literally just shot this up and popped it up probably within like 3 weeks, Christina, right? We blossomed it out of nowhere. Moving into this next iteration, which is going to kick off in the fall, September timeline, we are going to create a Discord family like the RecPoker community has. And that will hopefully help facilitate some of the individuals who might need a little more structure and framework in place for them.
Awesome. So we're going to get back into talking about some of like what's coming up for partnered poker. I wanted to take a step back and talk a little more about the poker community generally. I think you three have interesting perspectives on what the poker community brings to you and sort of what it should be like. And Christina, I'm going to start with you. So you published at Poker.org this summer a piece describing women's poker events. Oh, no, and I think a lot of people, when I'll tell you, because we talk about women's events here a lot, we talk about the mandate of making women feel more comfortable in the game. That's something that's important to RecPoker. And I think for people outside who only kind of hear the chatter and the reporting and stuff, you get this sense that like, oh, women's events, they're this man-free area where all this kind of toxicity and misogyny is not present, and women can just sort of like enjoy themselves without this freedom, without this male problem. And honestly, because it is a problem,
yes,
right? It is. So I mean, it might be part of the solution. Oh, I see my mom has just tuned into the YouTube chat just in time. Hi, Martha. Welcome. Always nice to see you in here. You're getting here just for the good stuff.
I want to point out, I am not asking this question. Just for the record.
Christina wrote the article. If anyone's to blame.
So I'm teeing it up here a bit, but Christina, so you just made your position that people might not know this, but a lot of women's events can actually be just as toxic or negative an experience for the participants. And I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it created some waves, and there was a lot of discussion around that. Would you like to sort of elaborate on that position and maybe the discussion that sparked in the poker community?
Sure. I lost all my friends. I'm just kidding.
When you brought it up, you had this facial reaction like, oh boy, here it comes. But like, is this a loaded question for you? Like, were there, I'm as curious about that as much as anything.
Yeah, it's a super loaded question, actually.
Okay. Let's unpack it.
First and foremost, I just want to say the peeps at Poker.org are great, but they are all about clickbait, which is fine. And I knew that this was coming for me. I knew that I was putting like my feet over the fire, and I signed up for it. It's fine. I had my opinion. I will say that I had like 10 times more like better bullet points than what they use, but whatever. And then somehow it came to where I hate women and I hate older women, which also is not true. And so, but the brighter side is that I kid you not, I had at least 2 or 3 women a day, and I played every single day at WSOP, come up to me either in the women's bathroom, during play, on breaks, and say, I 100% agree with what you said, and thank you for speaking up. That to me made it worth it. I don't care really who I lost as a friend, because we've all seen it and you guys know it's true. But I did have some people come up to me and say, I've never experienced this. And some people that have been in the game for much longer than me, that have played much more ladies tournaments, which I thought was wild, because like, I'm not saying all these things on the video happened to me myself. It was just things that I observed, that I noticed that I don't observe with normal tournaments, mixed genders. And so for people to say, yeah, I have no clue what you're talking about, I have never seen this. And so it was an interesting perspective, because I kid you not, this has happened at probably every single ladies event I've ever played, where there's some sort of sassiness, cattiness, a name call, some whispering, some guilt behind not showing your hand. If they show theirs, some sort of weird, like, I don't know what it is. It's like it's and you kind of just like want to coddle and be nice and do things that you don't normally do, and like a lot of things just kind of slide that normally don't slide. That's all fine, but if that's the expectation and it doesn't happen, and then there's like shit talking behind it, it's just weird to me. It's weird.
So I'll go on the record. Like, as far as between humans and dogs, I prefer dogs. So, men or women, like, there's a bunch of jerks out there with all the parts. It doesn't matter what you're equipped with. Like, it doesn't matter how you define yourself. A lot of humans are garbage, and it doesn't, men or women, it's true. It's true. I think the poker world has a bunch of bad actors in it. It has a bunch of assholes in it. It has a bunch of, bad people in it, just like any group of humans. The problem is it's humans. So, and I'm not really interested in getting into the blame game of it. But like, would you say that the women's events just have like a different kind of toxicity or a different kind of negative experience that mixed events have? And then I know Joe's got some follow-up here after.
Yeah, I think it's just a weird like expectation that, like, I don't know, it just plays completely different. It's like, it's almost like, okay, and this sounds weird too, but like a lot of ladies that play the ladies event are older. This is how I got a lot of hate. And so it's kind of like, are you going to not show your hand to grandma when she shows you her hand and she wants to see your hand? She's asking 50 times. And if you don't show her, then all of a sudden, like, you're the worst person on earth. And then you feel like shit. And it's like, okay. And then like all of a sudden, you're not allowed to like not speak at the table. Maybe you're having a bad day, right? Or maybe you just don't speak normally when you play poker. But if, grandma wants to talk about her grandson and show you pictures of her new granddaughter, you're not going to ignore that. and you kind of have to be like sort of charismatic, or else if you ignore them, most men wouldn't care, right? If you ignored them, right?
I think that's what it boils down to, Christine. I mean, stereotypes exist for a reason. It's not that it's applicable across the board, but there's a reason why Men Are From Mars, Women Are From Venus books sold a gazillion copies. There's reasons why the love language is out there. I mean, there are differences between the way men and women operate. Women are probably more intelligent. They certainly are more emotionally aware. And so some of the things that at a poker table full of men that someone may just say, dude, you're an a-hole, maybe the ladies aren't as comfortable doing. And so it does tend to be more of that kind of behind the back mean girls type atmosphere. I mean, anyone that's been in the poker room enough and witnessed it at some of these events, not only the ladies events, but now that more and more women are playing, a higher percentage is sitting at our own tables, there's definitely a difference. I'm not afraid to say that there's a difference, and I'm not saying that it applies across the board, but there is something there, and maybe it's just that men are okay getting in a fist fight and then hug it out, and women aren't quite as that they haven't experienced that as much in their lives. But there is a difference.
Joe Coolis, you were looking to get in here, I think.
Yeah, well, I could go on for about 14 hours right about now. So, but I'm gonna restrict it to a very narrow question, because when I read your article, I actually wasn't all that surprised. It's never for me, the women's tournaments, and I can't really comment on it. So please excuse if there's some ignorance, because I'm not willing to dress up as a woman just to play women's events. It's not any different than human interactions in a wide variety of ways. The reason that you do women's tournaments, yeah, it's more comfortable, but it's also, there's not any threat, right? You're not going to be raped. You're not going to be killed by other women as frequently as you might be by men. The statistics just bear that out. So to just simply verbalize, this is where I swore I said it was going to be supportive, to just simply verbalize that women act in social ways that are as inappropriate as men do, but just in a different way, because they're using the tools to try to throw you off your game that men don't use, because they're using other tools, right? So a man, for instance, is going to walk up to a woman at a table and stand right next to them and make them feel like they want to crawl out of their skin. Well, a woman probably won't do that, right? Because it won't have the same reaction or the same measure of threat, but may use a social contract and is going to force a woman to act in a social way to gather information from you. So the same dynamics are at play. And you have to navigate those dynamics at the table, whether it's all women, all men, or a mix of those populations. So again, I didn't see anything that was all that shocking about what you had to say about that a women's table may not, that everybody just doesn't get root beer and clank glasses in the middle and split the money at the end of the time. That never made any sense to me. So I don't think anybody should have a problem with anything that you said at that time, personally.
Well, and I did have the opportunity to eavesdrop a little bit on a group of women watch party that were watching the ladies only tournament at the WSOP over the summer. And just listening to the comments that were being made at that watch party while they're watching the final table is completely different than the comments that would be made by a group of guys watching the final table of the $2,500 high roller or whatever. And that right there in and of itself sheds light on exactly what you're talking about. And maybe they felt more comfortable saying some of the things they were saying because they were at a female-only watch party. I just happened to be working close by. But that is that social construct. And if they were in a room full of other male poker players or a co-ed room, would those comments have been different? And I think that that's the difference that Christina was highlighting. And I, for one, don't think she's wrong.
I'm going to try my best not to fucking blow my gasket, but all of y'all are buttering Christina's biscuits. And it's not cute, right? Like, it's good to disagree with people. Christina, after that post occurred, Christina and I sat down for lunch and we talked about how we have different opinions. Yes, there are toxic environments in women's events. Yes, there are toxic environments in men's events, right?
Absolutely.
So if you don't want to play a women's event, that's great. If you don't want to play a men's event, that's great as well. But what I think is core here is that is not 100% of the experiences in women's events. Out of all of the women's events I've played, it's maybe 2%, 5% comparatively. And I think, Joe, you made a beautiful case for it's a different strength that people pull. Maybe 15 to 20% of men's events have made me feel the ick, right? There's always, and I'll throw it out there, there's always an older gentleman, they're probably with that older woman Christina's talking about, who is looking down your shirt, who is like, oh, pretty girl, you would never bluff, which is great. Fine, whatever. I don't care. But it's a much different environment. And I think the problem with creating an article like that, and I know it's not Christina's full intention to do this because Poker.org was all about the clickbait, but it's limiting some women who only read that article. That is the only port of access to the poker community is through Poker.org. It's going to limit them to have good, positive experiences in the poker world. And potentially they won't even go out and play at all because they're fearful of playing in women's events and men's events. So
Great point.
I told Christina, we're going to agree to disagree on this one. Mad respect for her for saying her opinion. But I just think there's a lot of really great experience I've had because of women's events.
Yeah, that's a great point. I didn't think about the barrier to entry for someone maybe hearing that as a new player.
And we've got some good comments here in the YouTube chat about this. So Miriam Miskowski says, Christina, I appreciated your speaking out on this. Kim Kilroy says, says, you tell him, Mikha. Because Kim's a RECing Crew member. She's always been a big proponent of women's events and having that kind of that experience. Evil Roy Slade says, maybe the issue is more about the range of people with different expectations of what the women's tournament will provide them with, which I think that's going to be part of it. Like when I listened to you, Christina, talking about it, I got the sense that there's almost this expectation of like a meta permissiveness that that allows the players to sort of feel like they can, I don't want to misuse the language that you use, but something like, to act in such a way that they're gonna kind of get away with it because everyone's letting everyone kind of like get away with a little more stuff, and that presents differently. Like Mike Day says here, in his opinion, in his experience, like the verbal abuse would be more prominent in ladies' events, or like the verbal bad behavior, whereas in men's events, as kind of like what Joe was getting at, I think you actually see that devolving into a more physical or violent, like stress relieving angle or something like that. I'm not sure we have a question or an answer here, but like this is a very interesting conversation.
There's also a correlation between the stake you play and the level of respect you get. It's just at the lower stake buy-ins, I feel like the composure of poker players is a little less etiquette than at if you were buying into maybe 2,500, 5Ks, 10Ks. So you'll start to see less of this and more like application of strategy at the higher levels and less drama at the lower levels, or more drama at the lower levels.
Yep.
There is an interesting aspect, though, just as an aside. And first, Micah, I don't think anybody has ever said I buttered anybody's biscuit before. It's just really not something I tend to do, but write that down. But anyway,
yeah.
So I've talked with Andrew Brokus about this and some other folks in some of my travels. Is I always wonder if it's what people consider is poker. Right. So if you're at a table and it's with Kasuf, for instance, from a few weeks ago, he considers what he's doing poker. I never have. Right. I have the belief that you treat people with respect. And, as people have told me repeatedly, I can be kind of annoying. So if I want to be, but I don't do it on purpose. And I wouldn't do something that would make somebody feel threatened or feel so angry with me to throw them off so that I would gain that edge at the table. But I do tend to be kind of in the Jim Reid school of being jokesy and jovial, and people show me hands all the time, and I'm using social contracts in order to taint things. So where I'm getting at is, it depends on what you call poker, right? What is poker? And what are we going to say is a part of the game in order to say, well, this is what's allowable and this is what's unreasonable. And I don't know that I think we probably would get 6 different questions if we asked all the panel members in terms of what the game of poker entirely is. And that creates the struggle at where women's events can't be women's events in comparison to regular events, because even the women don't agree with what the real game is and how it should be run. Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, and I think women players use it both ways as well. There are some highly talented female players out there that simply rely on their skill and their edge. There are plenty of fantastic poker players out there that use their feminine wiles to lure men into a sense of complacency when they're stone cold killers. They wear the low cut V-necks on purpose. They don't care if men are trying to look down their blouse, because as long as men are looking there, they're not looking at their own cards, right? And so when you have that gradient of women that's using that skill set, and as you said, a lot of people feel that any tool you have in your arsenal is fair game when it comes to poker. And depending upon how that's being used, and then of course, when you do get bested by another man, depending upon your own ego, you may take that differently by being bested by a woman, based upon your life experiences, and all that comes to play, the psychological aspects of it and how you're going to handle that situation.
A couple more comments from the YouTube chat here. Marion saying, thank you for saying women's events and not ladies events. I do see that as a movement in the poker world. I'm not sure, who feels like that's more or less important compared to the other stuff out there, but it is something that we're being more conscious of, I think. And Craig Savage saying there's sportsmanship, gamesmanship, and assholeship. And some people don't know the difference between them. That's kind of like what getting at what Joe was saying there about there are elements within the game, and then there are elements on the edge of the game, and then there are elements outside the game of poker when it comes to behavior and how we comport ourselves at the table. Mm-hmm. So what are some more effective ways then? And Christina, I guess I'll start with you, but I'm interested in hearing from all of our guests. What are some more effective ways of making players feel welcome or comfortable in the poker world? Oh, you're muted, I think. Sorry, Christina. I can't hear you. Oopsies. I don't know if someone else. There we go. Now you're in. You're back.
Not to get too off track, but this is a good segue for something that has been talked about between the three of us and something that's going to be in the very far future, but it's in the works.
Patent pending. Right, sorry, you continue.
It's solving the issue of my poker.org article, which was meant to say that people going into newbies going into poker it could have a tough time because, like Brent was saying, it's just a different form of abuse, right?
Yeah.
And so, but you're still getting some sort of abuse at the end of the day, playing a ladies event. And so we talked about having a possible beginners event for all genders. And it's just going to be a low stakes buy-in where we're going to have some sponsored pros peppered in there, helping people out, reminding people to put out their antes, and having dealers be super patient during that tournament. It'll just be, like a all gender, come play poker, even if you've never played before, even if you want to get into it, even if you've played maybe only a handful of times. And we're going to have support. We're going to have people there who know what they're doing, who are going to be super patient, maybe even give some mentorship, coaching during breaks, things like that. Just a super supportive environment. And so that's down the line. But what was the original question? Did I answer it?
No, about ways that we can more effectively make players feel more welcome or more comfortable at the table.
Yes, and for today's world, guys, just don't be an asshole, especially if you're playing like a low stakes buy-in. There's gonna be low stakes players, and so we just need to be more patient. We need to not get angry. We need to not lash out, and as a community, we need to not berate people when they make a mistake or they're not playing by what should have been played by. They're playing 0%ers all the time, and that should be okay. And this goes actually for like mid-stakes tournaments too. It happens all the time in Vegas. Like, lower stakes people like myself who just want to move up or just wanted to get their feet wet and play with the pros. We had no idea what we were doing. And so just be nice.
I know Joe's got a question, but I'm going to jump in before. We've got some really good comments in the YouTube chat here. So Type Login says, there are seniors tournaments, there's women's tournaments. Why aren't there youth tournaments? And would this help for new players to get into poker? Andrew DeFeo says, similar to a rookie event, that you can't have over a certain Hendon mob total in order to play. So, yeah, I think that's great. I also want to draw everyone's attention. Oh, Somsky's back. Somsky, you were frozen in this wonderful meme form for a moment there. And I just wanted everyone to be able to appreciate that. But no, here you are back in the land of the living. Welcome back, sir. I love that idea of the beginners tournament. And then I guess the question is sort of like, how do you curate that effectively so that it is only beginners, and like what's your criteria for that? And I think like just like any time you try and have a curated space, you're going to have edge cases and you're going to have bad actors and people that are trying to exploit the rules. And so ultimately you just have to go into it with your heart in the right place and make some good decisions as they come up time by time, case by case. But I do really like that approach. I've heard that idea before. Like, if you have over a certain amount on Hendon Mob, you're not eligible for the tournament. I think we'd have to figure out a way to include online play in that. But I do like that idea. Joe, you, Brent, you had something.
I was just going to say, similar to your own forum that you guys monitor, I think the bad actors, to use your term, they become evident pretty quickly. Yeah. And especially when you're looking at the mentorship program. if you choose the right mentors, they can pretty much tell you which mentees are genuine and which mentees aren't. So yeah, I think that someone could try to take advantage of it, but I don't think it's going to stay hidden for long.
And I do think it is the kind of thing that you just sort of, it's like it's art versus porn. Like you just have to know it when you see it and make that decision. Sure. Like we curate our membership here pretty carefully, and we're a self-selecting group. Like not a lot of people join RecPoker if they're inclined to be rude or abusive at the table. Like there's kind of like a filtering effect that happens naturally, but some of them do stumble in from time to time. And
No
we've had to kick people out of the home game club. We've had to kick people out of the learning events. We've had to like refuse them entry at our live events because they're just not the kind of people that we want to play poker with. They're not the kind of people that we want to be encouraging this next group of poker players to be. And we'd rather be a smaller group that was a better group than a bigger group that had a bunch of assholes in there.
So we've even said that among the three of us is quality over quantity, right? Quality over quantity.
Yeah.
Jim, to add a little color to your question with Christina about how do we make poker a better space, I think it's just a PSA to all humans is if you see someone having a tough day or a tough time or they're reacting poorly to the experience, you don't need to do it in game, but maybe off the side, just ask them if they're okay. Maybe cheer them up. I know a lot of people feast on the emotional breakdown of a poker player, as you should, right? Tilt causes massive mistakes, and we should take that edge and EV all day, every day. However, a couple of words on break could actually completely change that person's perspective and bring a more positive outlook to the game overall and create a less, I guess, violent environment. So that's my PSA is A, just ask them if they're okay, but B, you don't need to sign up for Partnered Poker to be a mentor. You could just offer somebody who's like really interested, like Brent was on his first day, but they're struggling in the game, and just say, hey, looks like you're really interested to learn. Here's my number. Or anytime I'm around in this casino, feel free to talk to me. I'm more than happy to answer any questions because I know I've been around the block. So that's my PSA. Be a good human.
I like that. And I think we talk about people advocating for themselves at the table. And we also talk about, and you've kind of mentioned bystanders talking to, people that might be feeling less than or feeling unwelcomed. I want to ask particularly Christina and Mikha, I want to ask you a similar question for bystanders. Like I'm a purple tie guy, like people like me that want to be an ally to those that are not feeling comfortable or welcome at the table. What role should we play when something that we feel like is mean or abusive is happening at the table, but we're not the victim of it? Because there's this tension between wanting to help, but not wanting to just like be this, white knight who's coming into on the silver steed to save the day. This like, where do how would you counsel people to act in those moments when they see something that they think is maybe out of line?
Honestly, just view it. I'm guessing you're talking about a situation where it's like maybe a woman getting picked on and you're a man. Is that what you're talking about?
Let's use that as an example. Sure. Yeah.
Or just like a younger person. Just like think of it honestly as your kid. Like if that was your daughter, if that was your son, having those words spoke to, like, are you just going to sit back and relax? Just ask that question.
Yep.
Yeah. And everybody's different on what they want support wise too. So maybe just ask the person that you believe is getting inflicted pain onto and just say, hey, do you need me to step in? Like share your perspective on what you think's happening with that person, because sometimes it's just the feeling of being alone at a poker table when you feel like you're getting bullied hurts more than the actual bullying. So that would be my advice.
And honestly, like the easiest thing is just to call Floor and let the floor deal with
it.
Floor, this guy's being a dick.
Co-sign. No, we got to normalize calling the floor.
Players, the newer players, they're scared to do that, right? And that goes back to the problem.
Yeah,
I like that. So we have to, and so we do have to kind of model that behavior for the new players, that it is okay to call the floor over, that ultimately that's the best step you can take, is to introduce that element. Joe Coles, yeah, jump in.
Yeah, I was just curious. I mean, I have one other question, but you raised something interesting. So and going back to your mentorship program, do you have expectations for the mentors to teach? So what everybody's talking about is bystander intervention effects, right? If you get a bystander to move in and to do something in the moment, it's actually a way systems will teach individuals to help individuals from demographically disadvantaged or marginalized populations, is step in, right? And the number one value that shows why people will intervene in a bystander effect is knowledge, right? Sophistication in a particular area or special skill. So if you know how to do CPR, you're much more likely to actually step in if you see somebody who's struggling to breathe because of the skills that you have available. So what it raised for me is, will you have some module or something that you present to your mentors to say, well, if you've been at the table for a while and if you know what calling the floor is, maybe that's part of your responsibility? Or do you not consider that necessarily part of what your roles are in terms of your program?
Joe, if you want to volunteer and take that on, we are looking for volunteers to help us out. I think the sky's the limit with the resources we can supply to people. We set a very general, here's the expectations. And we also say, if you're not comfortable in this situation, you have no commitment to this. You could let us know, or you could just bow out. But yeah, if you literally, if you wanted to throw together something in that, or send us your thoughts on it, we're more than happy to maybe incorporate that in the future.
I will soft agree to send in thoughts. Anything else, and then we'll have to talk, because my wife doesn't want me to get more involved in things. She's already running on the treadmill upstairs because she's waiting for me to get done so we can have dinner. But anyway,
that does raise the question of, what does poker literacy look like? I, for one, asked my mentees very early is, what is your experience? Have you only been playing home games? Have you played in a casino before? How frequently have you played casino? How long have you been playing, to try to gauge that poker literacy? But that's a great starter question that we should probably implement and include, is to understand how comfortable people are, just understanding how the game works, much more so than just how to think through a hand.
So one of my other questions for the panel is more, so we've talked a lot about essentially I know you've said, genders, but there's a bifurcation that some people have in their own brains about how genders work, and also with regards to other issues of marginalized communities. I'm just going to pan my camera down for a second to say that there are other concerns that really change how people are perceived at the table. And the usual men are assholes and women are great dichotomy actually doesn't hold very well at times when you bring in those other considerations to the equation. So how would you see, not necessarily responsibility, but what would you see as the best manner and approach to deal with other marginalized populations who aren't just women in our role as rec players and as people who are more sophisticated in their poker skills?
I can take that if you'd like. So the way that I view mind sports such as poker is that it's partially the reason why I love it is because it is a leveling playing field, right? There's not the physicality differences between testosterone and estrogen that we're all maybe innately born with, whether we choose to remain in those genders or not, and who you choose as your life partner. So that's one thing about the mind sports that I think truly allows people to not have to rely on that physicality. In doing so, though, just as you said, people's life experience can affect how they feel in certain environments. Those marginalized communities are used to feeling that, and especially a typically high testosterone, misogynistic, like playing poker has always been viewed from the wild, wild west. That can be a little intimidating. I think it goes back to what Mikha said earlier, is if you're a good human, you're a good human. If you see something, say something. just as I wouldn't want someone to inflict pain, as Mikha said, on me, I also don't enjoy watching people inflict pain on others. And I think that's part of being a good human. If I see behavior that I think is inappropriate at a poker table, I certainly have no problem speaking up. And maybe that's just because I'm comfortable speaking up for myself and for others. And that might be a little bit easier. That also goes back to the responsibility of any floor staff, if we're talking about professional poker tournaments, that dealers should also feel that they have the authority to nip things in the bud and not let things get too far.
So we're going to move on to a couple more questions here. I want to remind our YouTube audience, get those questions in. We're coming up to the end of the interview here, so you're running out of time. Also, if you want to start typing the word food bank into the YouTube chat, that's all you need to do to be entered into our raffle at the end of the show. And the reason that we ask you to type the words food bank into the YouTube chat is because it's just a simple way for us to bring some awareness to the fight against food insecurity. The fact is that it's a very difficult time in the world right now for a lot of people. And the next few years are going to be hard. It's going to be hard for people in your own neighborhood, people in your own community. Some people that you might not expect need some help, are going to need some help, and maybe do right now. So the best way that you can make the world a better place, in my opinion, is just by helping feed the hungry people in your own neighborhood, in your own community. They're there. They need your help. If you're in a position to help, I encourage you, press pause on the podcast right now and just pull out your smartphone and Google food banks near me. And a bunch of places will come up that can benefit from a few dollars out of your pocket, a few volunteer hours out of your week, or some non-perishable food items from your pantry. And so please do go support your local food banks. If we get some folks typing the words food bank into the YouTube chat here, we're going to give away a fantastic prize at the end of the show. And we'll also have an opportunity to make a donation to support a local food bank as well. So we've had some good comments here. We got one. Kim Kilroy wanted to pipe in and reinforce this notion that calling the floor is exactly the right thing to do when someone's being abusive or rude to anyone, and that includes the dealer as well. And we have to, the dealer is in a unique position here where they are also a magnet for some abuse. And because they're an employee, they have a kind of different set of recourses available to them. And that, it's on us to kind of make that playing experience a better place for everybody. Mike Day says, the few times I've actually played in a casino, I haven't had any bad experiences at the tables, even though I'm in a wheelchair with cerebral palsy. Yeah, I was thinking about you, Mike, when we were talking about this, because there's lots of different ways to be marginalized in our society. And whether it's by being a woman, by being a certain age, by a person of color, or a person with disabilities, like there's lots of different ways that people might feel excluded or other than at the tables. So I think it's important that we all think about, I think, whoever said this earlier, it's just like, I think it was you, Mikha, like maybe we just start treating each other better as humans across the board, maybe not even at the poker table, but like there's lots of opportunities for us to treat each other better, and to take a little more grace into how we respond to other people. Unfortunately, the people that are the problem aren't going to take that mindset to heart. So it does kind of fall on the rest of us to curate our own community and to, I've said it before, to ostracize the assholes. That has to be something that we do intentionally and actively ourselves. So we've got a question from Marion Miskowski again. So what's the future of partnered poker? What does partnered poker look like 2 years out, 5 years out? What does the future hold for this fantastic organization?
Well, we go through phase by phase. We are transforming a lot, having Brent on board. So phase 2 is not going to look anything close to phase 1, probably. And so as far as 2 and 5, 10 years down the road, to be honest, not sure. But we are, Brent, do you want to take this one with all the stuff you're working on?
And I think that's exactly the way to look at it, is that we are we're very fluid, and because we are a mentorship program, we take the feedback to the people involved in our group to heart. So we do have a new website that is going to be launching. It's going to be partnerpoker.com as well as partnerpoker.org to support the nonprofit side of things. So you'll see that soon enough. That will have our mission statement and how you can get involved. A lot of that also depends on the continued sponsorship opportunities that we have beyond GTO Wizard we mentioned earlier, as well as Fast Roll Poker. We are having conversations with some other pretty big names in the poker industry, and depending upon their level of support, that's also going to obviously increase what we are able to do on our side. Success, I think, over time is as we continue to build our roster of mentors and mentees, and as long as we continue to grow without losing too many through just people dropping out over time. I think that that's going to be kind of that internally fueled growth. Ultimately, we're an organization. Our organization is made up by our mentors and our mentees and how much they give and get out of the opportunity. And if they have the experience that so many of us have already have, me personally, and others that can continue to have, and as that word spreads, I think that organically you'll see that growth.
Yeah, and I'd layer on top of that, our ideal state is we have individuals of Daniel Negreanu's status mentoring other high stakes individuals, and it's a tiering system all the way down, so we could support all levels of poker. We are the true partner to poker players, possibly expanding beyond mentorship program, possibly other facets in the poker world that need help through partnership.
I love that. And I'll speak for our group here as well. If RecPoker can be helpful in part of this program, like for instance, if new mentors would benefit from like 2 months of premium membership at RecPoker or something, that's something that we'd love to support and to kind of help further resource the program. I can tell your hearts are in a great place with it, and we want to do everything we can to make the poker world a better place.
Thank you, Jim. And we wanted to also extend back to you what you were saying about the food bank and hunger. Partnered Poker would love to donate $100 to your food bank of choice if you would have it.
That's a wonderful idea. Yeah, so Mikha, you and I can connect offline after the show, and we'll make that happen. That's a wonderful idea. Thank you so much. That's really nice. All the help helps. It all makes a big difference. Last question we got from Ashley J in the YouTube chat here says, what are your thoughts on tag team events to encourage new players to the game or more recreational players to play higher stakes? Is that something that you feel like has a future? Jump in.
Well, Christina and I actually did discuss this, and we talked about a couple different iterations. One iteration was, one flight of the mentors playing each other, and then the mentees playing each other, and then getting down to the final 5 of each for a final table combination. We talked about doing something similar to a tag team. We also talked about doing true guidance, where the mentors are kind of standing behind their mentees, and they've got a time card, and they ask for some extra time to step away and discuss the hand. So instead of tag team, it's more of true partnership and thinking through a hand. So we've talked about all that. We Christine, I don't know if you're able to speak to the potential partnerships, but there's a couple major circuits that we've also spoken with about running some of these events around the country. To allow some of these newer players the opportunity to play in a casino and maybe experience some of this, and having a partnered poker only type of tournament. But I don't know that we're quite where we can discuss that yet, are we, Christina?
Not yet. In the works.
I love that idea, though. I haven't heard of that notion before, of having like the coach behind you that you can like sort of tap in and go have a conversation and get some. That's an innovative idea. I think that would make, and I think that's what a lot of less experienced players want, is they want the in-game thoughts, like what should I even be factoring in, what should I be thinking about, let alone how to play the exact spot. So I think that's a very, very cool idea. All right. Well, I think we're going to call it here. This has been a really interesting show. I knew it would be. Thank you to the three of you for making your time available to us and for sharing your thoughts. And I know I can tell you all really kind of put yourselves out there, and we got to some really interesting points in the conversation. So I appreciate that. Why don't I guess we're going to roll on to John Somsky's home game results. Are there any closing thoughts? Is there you kind of mentioned a website there. I know that's going to be up soon. In the meantime, what's the best way for folks to reach out to you? Is it on social media, or why don't you just go one at a time and just kind of say where folks can find you, and then we'll say goodbye for today.
Easiest place is probably our Twitter account. Partnered Poker is our username. And you can message us any questions that you have. You can also email us at partneredpoker@gmail.com. And then once our website's up, that link will be on our Twitter account as well.
Okay.
And
wonderful.
last week of August, so I think August 30th, 31st, applications will be open for about a week, and we'll turn around and match individuals by mid-September, about September 19th or so, just to get it up and running for the next iteration. So keep an eye out.
Great, and we'll make sure that that Twitter handle is in the show notes, so people can go and check that out. I like that you're using Pittsburgh Steelers colors, by the way. Full points for that. Get the black and gold going. Don't think I didn't notice. All right, well, Mikha, Christina, and Brent, thank you so much for your time, and I look forward to connecting at some point in the future. I hope you enjoyed your time here on the RecPoker Podcast.
We did. Thank you for having us.
Jim. Bye.
All right, John Somsky, why don't you take us through some recent home game results, and then we're going to give away a fantastic prize to support our local food bank drive. Jump on in there, John.
All right, JD Cat 32, Jeff Catalano got his third nightly victory for the year. Bone Crusher 14, Marcel Dusick got his sixth nightly victory for the year. Nice. MCF.Jack, Jack McFarland got his fourth nightly victory for the year. Mike B172, Mike Bayer got his third nightly victory for the year. East Coast Bitter Ben Enslow got his fourth nightly victory for the year. Then East Coast Bitter Ben Enslow got his fifth nightly victory for the year. And it should be noted that he's at 45 lifetime, so only 5 away from Silver Lifetime Achievement Award. Wow. K-Poker Wannabe Ron Payton won the Daily Mixed event for the third time this year. Kel Brown 73 got his third international victory event. Now You Said It Joe got his fifth international victory event. And Stewie 13 Stuart Carriage won the LPP event for the second time this year. He can contact info@rec.poker for his free month at Learn Pro Poker.
Right on. Love to hear it. A bunch of killers in the group there. Congratulations, Stewie. Send that email, of course. You've won a free month at Learn Pro Poker. What a boss. Just one of the perks of being part of our community here. And even our free members can win all sorts of great prizes. Speaking of which, invisible producer Rob Gardner, let's bring out the wheel of fame and fortune. Someone's going to win a fantastic prize, or it's going to land on Food Bank, and I'm going to donate $20 to the food bank of my choosing. All you had to do was show up for free and type the words Food Bank into the YouTube chat, and it is Food Bank. So I am going to be the winner of the opportunity to donate $20 to a food bank of my choice. Let's roll it again and see who else is going to win a fantastic prize tonight. And it can be multiple. Is it going to be again? Oh, I saved me. Only $20. Type login. Welcome. You know the drill. This isn't your first time in the winner's circle, and I'm not going to dox you, type login, but there's a chance I might even get to see you in person this weekend if I'm a lucky guy. Fingers crossed. Send that email to info@rec.poker, sir, and claim your fantastic prize. If I'll just know, typically what we do is if you're not a premium member at RecPoker already, you've won a free month of premium at RecPoker. Type Login, I believe, is a premium member here and has been for a long time. So they'll be able to choose from one of our other learning partners. This is a part of our Learning with Partners program, where organizations like Learn Pro Poker, Solve for Why, the Poker Forge, PokerCoaching.com, Jacka Coaching, Ramp Poker. Oh, God, I do these on the air without the list in front of me. I know I'm forgetting one, but it was such a great group. All the best training sites in the world, honestly, share their material with our members, the members of our premium membership. So for your $22 a month, you can do a great. You can really get a dive into all the great stuff that's happening at all these other fantastic training sites as well. Type login. Yeah, I'm getting in there on Thursday night. I think let's do a cash game. I know they typically have a good Thursday night tournament at Running Aces as well. But yes, I will be there and can't wait. So yeah, it looks like we'll get a chance to get together on Thursday night. Count on that for sure. All right. I guess I'll just say thanks to Running Aces. They've got, of course, RecPoker weekend coming up this weekend, but they also have a Labor Day holiday double stack tournament on September 1st. And then I want to thank Mikha, Brent, and Christina. I want to thank Invisible Producer Rob Gardner, John Somsky, Joe Coolis, all the YouTube chatters, our premium members, our RECing Crew members, our community members, you, the listeners at home. Thanks. See you next week on the RecPoker Podcast. Bye.